International peace operations can be extremely complicated in either conflict settings, post-conflict settings, or as we saw in UNMIL in Liberia, the unexpected appearance of an Ebola epidemic. The resources that are needed to respond are both civilian and military. We have to pool our skills and our assets. Bringing these two often very different cultures together to work effectively, on top of the many countries that are already represented, can only be improved through practice. We don't want to discover our differences, our contradictions on the eve of a crisis. So an exercise like Viking 18, where we get to practice these skills in real time, is absolutely invaluable for this type of work. For a leader in these operations, one needs to bring together an enormous number of components. There's working with the military. Often military and civilians have very different cultures, and part of the task of Viking 18 is to teach us through this simulation, through this game, to work across these cultures. There are also strong humanitarian elements, there are political elements, there are unexpected crises, and increasingly we do have guidance for things like protection of civilians, gender mainstreaming, and all these need to be learned and practiced. So it's invaluable to have a setting in which we can work through some of these scenarios. Practicing is a good way to improve, and by looking at real-life examples and case studies, understanding what worked, and perhaps above all, understanding what failed, what are bad qualities, what should not be emulated, we come closer to finding the ideal. In these complicated operations, we need to bring all our assets together. I first worked with the military in former Yugoslavia during the war, where the leadership in humanitarian support came from the civilian side, but the delivery came from the military side. We had to join our assets, although we came from very different cultures. Often for civilians, including civilians like me from more of a human rights background, the military was a complete mystery. I learned that it was the other way around, too. They didn't necessarily understand civilian culture. Knowing that we need to work together makes it even more important to practice. In many operations, military and civilians alike come from a range of countries and cultures, and it's only by bringing these together and working out how to communicate across these virtual borders that we can deliver well in real life.